Good morning. I brought you to somewhere that I used to walk a lot quite a few years ago. I used to live here. It's just south of River Ystwyth, a beach called Tanybwlch, and behind me you can see, I suppose it's a hill, an outcropping, I don't know what you call it. It's called Ystwyth anyway, and it's the view that I used to have from my bedroom window, my desk. I used to crane my neck around a little bit. It wasn't straight out of the window, but I could see it from my bedroom window. It was always a lovely view. I've always loved it here, and I used to walk here a lot, so it felt like a good place to come for this week's walk. Well, we're not actually going to walk along the beach today. We're going to go and walk along the River Ystwyth, which, if you've followed my podcast for a while, or if you watched the very first video podcast that I made, you'll know that the Ystwyth is the river that runs through the woods where I regularly walk these days. But where we are now is where the Ystwyth joins the sea. It's the mouth of the Ystwyth, and in Welsh, mouth is Aber, so this is Aber Ystwyth, the mouth of the Ystwyth, and also the name of the town where I live. And somewhere here, oh, I missed it, there's a little path that leads down, which is the one that we're going to take. I thought I'd walk down here, well, partly just because actually it looks a little bit steep. I'm going to pause for a moment while I get down here, and I shall be back in a moment. Yes, I'm not actually sure that was the path I would normally take. It was rather steep, and I thought I couldn't hold a camera whilst I was trying to scramble down, but I'm here, and this is the Ystwyth. It is actually still looking quite low, and that's where it flows into the sea. And this house here, well, there's two houses here, it's somewhere I used to always imagine that I wanted to live. A very long time ago I used to write a column for the local newspaper in which I wrote about houses that were for sale, and that one was for sale, or half of it was for sale once, and ever since or for a very long time I used to long to live there. And strangely, my nephew, when he was a student, did live in that house, so I have a bit of a connection to it. Oh gosh, here comes a dog. Hello, you're very happy. So, yes, walking along here was something I used to do almost on a daily basis, probably about 17 years ago was probably, I think, when I moved from here to where I live now. And it was the house I lived in during the time that I was first diagnosed with ME, and I think at the time I thought that daily walks would help and I used to push myself a little bit too much, so I've learnt a lesson from that. I tend to try very hard not to push myself, and it's interesting coming here and thinking how far I used to walk. So I'm not doing anywhere near that sort of walk today. We're just going to walk a little way along here. This hill is Pendinas, and the monument on the top now, I think it's to Wellington actually, but I'm not absolutely sure about that. I ought to check. I used to walk up there too. In fact, the cat that I had when I lived here, Cedric, used to walk up there with me. I've always had cats that have liked walks. Obviously, one of the things about walking here is that it's much busier than where I normally walk. Well, when I say busy, I mean Aber Ystwyth busy. I probably wouldn't see anybody when I walked in the woods. I mean, here I think I've seen 3 people so far, and I just paused the recording while I let a lady and her dogs go past. So we're a little bit further on now, not very much further on, but a little bit further on. It's lovely and quiet down here. I think if I was walking up along there, which is probably the way I'll walk back, it would be much noisier. And after last week's not such impressive sound recording, I thought I would try and keep things a bit quieter this week. I have talked in some of the other videos about how low the Ystwyth is at the moment. It's such a long, hot, dry summer, quite record breaking, and the river where I was walking in the woods was incredibly low, and I imagine it was here too, but I've not seen it. This is the first time I've seen it, and I have to admit I wasn't expecting it to be quite so low. I've had so much rain, but obviously it's taking a while. Normally the river would be lapping up against here, but it's, I don't know, that's quite a way, 30 feet from the edge, I don't know, something like that. I'm not very good at judging distances. Quite a long way. This view here, now I can't really explain very clearly, but there's a gap. If you see the houses, the lower down houses, which I was talking about earlier, and the slightly higher up ones, between them there used to be a large building, which is where I used to live. It was called Tanybwlch, and I lived there for about 4 years, I think, which had fantastic views out over the sea, over Cardigan Bay, and down this way towards Ystwyth. Recently, well, a few years ago now, it was damaged in some weather, and it was knocked down, and it makes it feel very different here. Actually, it wasn't a particularly beautiful building, but it was a very distinctive building. When I first moved here, I knew someone who lived there, and I noticed it almost as soon as I moved in, and I'd really like to live there, and I did. Quite a few times there. It was a very nice place to live, but it was rented, and we really wanted to buy somewhere, and I'm very glad now that we didn't buy there. Some people did, mostly it was rented places, but some people did buy it. Of course, it was knocked down, and whilst I think they were compensated up to the point, they didn't really get the value of their property. So I'm not sorry that I moved. There have been times that I would like to have still been living here. It's right on the edge of town, not in town, and it's very easy to get to town. And sometimes I do crave that, rather than where I am now, which is about a 20-minute drive, and I don't always feel able to drive, so it's actually quite rare. More recently I've been getting into town about once a week. Some weeks, particularly low energy weeks, I skip a week, but often I do get into town, often in the afternoon, one day a week, for a cup of coffee with a friend. I'm just walking down to the edge of the river, which is a bit of a novelty. Normally, all this would be the River Ystwyth. So actually, rather nice to walk out to the edge. Perhaps I will put my feet, or my booted feet, in the Ystwyth, and perhaps that's where we'll end today's stroll. There, glistening in the morning sunlight. Hello, welcome to my studio. It's nice and cosy in here. The wind is picking up outside. I hope that you're going to be able to hear me okay. There's rain on the roof and it often gets very noisy when it rains on the roof of my studio. It's a metal roof. But hopefully we shall stay cosy and reasonably quiet so that we can have a work session together. Yes, welcome to the studio. I don't think I said in the first half of the video, this is the 5th Go Gently podcast, and also I think the 1428th episode of One Thing Today, and it's lovely to have you here. Normally in these audio podcasts, if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, I would pause the video at this point and I'd wind the timer up and then pause the video and get on with my own 20-minute work session. And I hope that as a listener you would be working on your own 20 minutes or however long you like to work, and then when your timer rings you join me again for the end of the podcast. But in these video podcasts and the audio versions that accompany them, we have a complete work session together, which I have to say I'm really rather enjoying. It feels very companionable to me. It feels like I'm being joined by people, which is lovely. I know that a few people have said that it feels companionable to them too, as if we're all in this together, which is a lovely way to be. So fantastic that this technology lets us do that. Let's just wind up the timer and get on with some work. I'm going to be crocheting again today. In fact, I can show you where I'm up to in a moment. There we go. I'm setting the timer for 21 minutes. Because, as I've said before, my timer is a little bit fast, so I think 21 minutes roughly equates to a real 20 minutes. Last week, or earlier on this week, I did finish all but the heel of my first of these purple socks that I've been making. I only just had enough, both the purple, I just had enough purple, and then when I was just adding the ribbing at the top, I had a couple of inches spare when I got to the end of that, so it worked out well. A little bit close for comfort, particularly with the ribbing. I thought I was going to run out before I got to the end of my round, but I didn't, luckily. And for the heel, I'm gonna pick something different to use, some different yarn to use for the heel. But I'm keeping that one heel-less for the time being because it makes a nice template. It's much easier to measure for the second one. And the second one I got a little way with. I made a start, I can't remember when it was, yesterday I think, on the toe, and this morning I've just been doing adding a little bit of colour while I was sitting in bed this morning, so a little bit of the purple. And I've rolled out a slightly bigger ball of purple wool this time because I really only just had enough. Let's do some work. I think in the first half of this week's video I was talking about the name River Ystwyth and saying that Aber in Welsh means mouth, which it does, but it means mouth in terms of an estuary or a river mouth, and I didn't want to confuse you. So the Welsh word for mouth, this mouth, is keg. So yes, just in case you were wondering, I did want to mention that. But there's lots of places in Wales that start with Aber, lots here nearby. Aberaeron, which is just up the coast, which is the mouth of the Avon. Avon, no, not Avon. Aberaeron, it's the mouth of the Avon. Dear, there we are, me being confused. Which has a fantastic fish and chip shop. It's about 25 minutes down the coast, I think. Particularly in the summer, I do go there a fair bit. Great fish and chip shop and great ice cream. So I often get a bag of chips, and then if I'm being really decadent, I'll have an ice cream. It's made with local honey, their ice cream. which is really very good. And just by Aberaeron there's a place called Aberarth, which is the mouth of the Arth. Now Arth means bear, as in a bear, the animal bear, and I feel a certain affinity with that, so I rather like the name Aberarth. So if you're looking at a map of Wales and you see a name that starts with Aber, there's going to be a river very near. So these places are likely to be coastal places, obviously. So you can look for a river that starts with the second half of the place name. I seem to be making much more progress with the start of this sock. The end of this one seemed to take a long time to get to. And I do wonder actually if I started this one it felt like I was going quickly and I was thinking I'm going to get this one done, but I suspect this one, it's hard to remember, I suspect this has taken me a couple of weeks, so no doubt this one will too. But, that's alright, there's no rush. Gosh, that rain is getting quite heavy. How has your week been? It was lovely last week that some of you told me what you were up to in these sessions, and it would be lovely to hear what you're up to again this week. But also, it would just be lovely to hear how your time between these sessions is going, what you're up to. I wonder if you're having to live, or wanting to live, or choosing to live a slow life like I am. And I wonder what that life entails. As I was talking about quite a lot in the audio podcast this week, I'm still very much in this in-between place at the moment, this transition place. And I have to admit, I've been feeling a bit frustrated with that this week. I'm finding it quite difficult. I do feel a bit better about it again today, actually. That I perhaps can still let myself be patient with it for a while longer. But I think because the end of the month is approaching, I realise that another month has passed without me making any firm decisions about the way ahead for me. Though I can see, looking back, that things are gradually changing, and I wonder if actually, rather than suddenly making a decision, I just need to let these changes happen. Maybe they will need a little bit of shepherding in places, but I wonder if it's not so much about making a firm decision and then implementing it, but rather just gradually letting things change, and I think these podcasts are a really good case in point. Though actually I suppose the starting of them was quite sudden actually, but I'm entering into them without too much in the way of expectation. I think I'm just doing them and seeing how that changes what happens around them, and actually it is changing a little bit about what's happening around them. I'm wondering about the future of the audio podcast. I think I probably mentioned that last week. Wondering about how much is enough, really, both in terms of what I do generally in my life, but also what I offer in terms of what I put out into the world as well, and maybe less. Well, I do think I need to do less, but I wonder what that less looks like and what it means. But yeah, I do feel like I can be a bit more patient about it at the moment. Ask me again next week. I might not be feeling as patient next week. But yeah, today I am, so I'll take that. And I do feel very much like whatever I'm shaping at the moment feels like it's going to be my life for quite a while. So it does feel important to get it right, to be patient. I think I've always said that in a podcast this week as well. Just, it's all right if it takes a bit longer, because it's important. And I think this idea of sort of trying things on and seeing how they feel, and when you first put something on, it often feels really uncomfortable and a bit odd. But if you just wear it for a while, play with it for a while, it perhaps starts to feel a bit more comfortable and a bit more normal. So I think we need to give things a try and just see. And I was sort of pondering around the idea of actually trying out one of the sort of ideas I've sort of got a couple of different ways of being, I suppose, which I'm kind of going back and to between. One, not that different to how I am now, what I'm doing now, but with tweaks and cutting back on some things and stopping some things. And another which actually feels quite different. And I did wonder actually whether I could just let myself live that life for a month or two and see how it feels, and just tell people, for a while I'm trying this and just see what happens. So that's an idea I'm sort of letting in a bit this week, and it feels like quite an exciting idea actually, so maybe I will do that. It would include these podcasts and the sort of work routine around creating them. So I don't know, we will see. It does feel quite an exciting idea. So yeah, that's sort of where I'm at the moment. I made a drawing this week, which I haven't done for ages. I thought that was interesting too, that suddenly I did a bit of drawing. It felt quite good, actually. You might know I draw with my finger on my iPad usually. That's really how I normally draw. And my iPad, it's an iPad mini and it's quite old, it's been really slowing down. And I think that's part of the reason I've not really wanted to use it. But there was the new iOS, 12 update came out this week, and I put it on there, and suddenly my iPad feels, well, like I say, it feels like new. That sounds like a bit of advertising for Apple, doesn't it? It's not really what it's meant to be, but it is really good. It feels much better. So quite enjoying that, actually, just sort of playing around with it, and yeah. Who knows, maybe I'll do a bit more of that. Trying very hard not to have much of expectations about myself and what I do at the moment. Yeah, just seeing. I've not listened to much of my my Agatha Christie book. I think I mentioned I was listening to a new Agatha Christie, not by Agatha Christie obviously, by a woman called I couldn't remember last week. I think it's Sophie Hannah. I'm pretty sure it is actually. It's called The Three Quarters Mystery, or The Mystery of Three Quarters. Actually, is it The Mystery of Three Quarters? I think it is. Sorry. And I was really enjoying it. I was getting quite immersed in it. But I tend to listen to audiobooks to send me off to sleep. So I often listen to books that I know quite well, so it doesn't matter that I don't hear much of them, because I actually nod off quite quickly when I put an audiobook on. So that's not the way I want to listen to this one. And for some reason I don't feel like I've had much listening time this week. It's not like I've been busy too much with other things, I don't think. Or have I? Maybe I have. But yeah, so I want to make some time, really want to make some time this coming week for that. I did listen to it a bit this morning, which is when I did actually make quite a lot of progress on this. It was a good companion for that. So yeah, I want to make some time for that. So that is a bit of an expectation of myself, but hopefully a gentle one and a way to be kind to myself. I think I'm watching quite a lot as well. Watching quite a lot of YouTube at the moment. I mentioned again in an audio podcast this week about the fantastic Katie Greenbean podcast. Katie is an artist, a knitter and a sewer, and I think she lives somewhere on the Devon-Cornwall border. I'm not quite sure where. And she makes fantastic video podcasts on YouTube. And there was a new one of those this week, so I really enjoyed listening to that or watching that, and I watched it more than once. So that filled a bit of sitting awake time. And actually I did have two trips to town this week, which is very, very unusual. I have been trying to get in the habit of having a trip a week to town, but yeah, as well as recording this trip to town, and after I recorded this, I went and tried to see a friend whose birthday it was, not very successfully, sadly. He was away, and for a family emergency, so I didn't see him. But I also met a friend for coffee, so on another day. So it's been quite a sociable week, and I have half thought, depending on how I feel after I've got this done and uploaded, which will be the editing of that will be tomorrow, then I might go into town after that too, but I'm going to get this finished and get it edited before I decide that. I had a couple of errands I quite wanted to run, but well, we'll see. Perhaps 2 in a week is quite enough, actually. Perhaps I'll wait until next week. But yes, if I take you on a slightly further afield walk, that does well, especially if it is in town, it gets me out a bit more than normal. And I thought I'd just make the most of it. I had breakfast afterwards, after our walk, and then I went to see this friend who works in the School of Art in River Ystwyth, which is where I used to be for a while. And it was lovely actually to pop in and see it all, even though it was really quiet. I used to be really tuned into term time and when it wasn't term time, and I'm just not anymore. I live in my own little world, I think, in terms of time. So I'd expected it to be busy, but actually it was almost completely empty because it's not term time yet. So I had a bit of a wander. It's a bit like wandering around some old memories, actually. Wandering around, there was an exhibition on which I got to look at, and I saw my old room, and I I chatted with somebody I did see. The only person I saw actually was someone I knew for when I used to be there, which is 10 years ago now, actually, that I left. So that was nice. It made me think, oh, it would be nice to pop in a bit more often. They do regularly have exhibitions. This one was postgraduate show. But they have other curated exhibitions as well throughout the year. I think there's usually an exhibition on, in fact. And years ago, when I was sort of dreaming about being an artist, I used to go in there. I used to take artist dates. A long time ago now. Oh gosh, probably more than 20 years ago. I was in an online Artist Way group, working through the Artist Way with a group of people online, and one of the things that grew out of that was regular trips to the School of Art to look at exhibitions as artist dates. So yeah, good to be reminded of that, actually. Oh my goodness. Was that really 20 minutes? Was that really 20 minutes? It was, good grief, looking at the time on the thing. That went by incredibly quickly. Gosh. Oh well, there we are. A little bit of progress. I hope you've had a good 20 minutes. I hope you've enjoyed joining me for 20 minutes of whatever you've been working on. Do let me know in the comments below what you've been doing during today's session, and maybe a little bit about how life has been this last week. It would be lovely to hear. If you do enjoy these videos and you're watching on YouTube, I'd be very grateful if you'd click the like button, and also of course to subscribe, and then you'll get notified every time I upload a new video. I can't believe how quickly that 20 minutes went by. It felt, yeah. Much more quicker than normal. Take care. Have a lovely week. I'll be back again next week for a bit of a stroll and another work session, and it'll be lovely to have your company. Take care.